The Financial Survival Network, helping you survive and thrive in the new economy. Go to CarrieLutz.com and sign up for 30 free micro trainings on financial survival.
$14.90 WGCH. This is Carrie Lutz. You're listening to the Financial Survival Network. And it's time for another Triple Lutz report. So I got to tell you this story that happened to me today. It was Santa Claus just paying me off, and it was really great. But it had a little bit of a dark lining to this silver cloud. I used to collect watches, collectible watches. I had a Paul Newman Daytona, I had a bunch of Patek Philippe's, and basically bought them for investment purposes in brand new condition with all the wrappers, put them in a safe deposit box, and forgot about them for about 5 or 6 years. Then, when the financial crisis hit in 2007, I somewhat panicked. I sold off all my watches and took the proceeds, put it into gold and silver, and did fine, did real well. Gold went up substantially, more than doubled. I did much better than I would have done had I stuck with the watches, but the watches were really an incredible investment in the late 90s and early 2000s because people were making so much money and they couldn't figure out what to do with it all, especially these Wall Street types. And what did they do? They bought collectible watches, new watches, old watches. My pride of the collection was a Paul Newman Daytona original from the early 1960s. Paul Newman, race car driver, also a phenomenal actor, was in a movie called Winning. And the watch that he wore in that movie was a Rolex Daytona. And as a result of his role in that movie and the watch, it became a cult collectible classic. And eventually, in early 2000, I was able to purchase one. I always wanted one, and they were expensive. And I kept it for 6-7 years. Eventually, it doubled, tripled in value. At one time, it was worth about 7 times what I paid for it. But after the meltdown in 2007 and 2008, it went down. It was only worth about 4 times, 3.5 times what I paid for it. But anyway, watch prices have gone up. The market's great, and that's a sign of inflationary expectations. But that's not the point of this. So I liquidated most of the watches in my collection, and there was one Audemars Piguet that my dealer, Steve Dubinsky, over at Tarrytown Jewelers. And Steve, he's got one of the best selections of pre-owned collectible watches out there. I mean, the watches he has, if you're into watches and you go there, you're like a kid in a candy store. He's just got so many, and there's always one that you can find and buy. But I'm not in the watch collecting game anymore. It was one of those investments that I really did well in spite of my stupidity, because I just bought good stuff that he told me to buy. He also sells gold and silver when he has it, but later on for the story. So this Audemars, he said, I know I sold it to you, but it's really, there's no demand here for it. Let me just put it up on the website, and whatever I get, I'll take a little commission and you'll get the rest. And, he put it up on the website like 2 years ago, maybe 2.5, because I think I did this in about 2009, late 2008. And I forgot about the thing. I've totally forgot about it. So I had some watches I needed new batteries in. I needed to get them cleaned up, because you should, when you have a collectible watch, you should have it overhauled, cleaned up every 3 years or so. And you should keep it, in a sealed environment. Wind that watch. It's bad when you don't keep the thing wound, because then it will lose time and you're going to have problems with it. So I go in today to pick up those watches I had dropped off a few weeks ago. And he said, "Why didn't you call me back?" And I said, "What are you talking about?" He said, "I sent you an email. I sold your watch." I said, "What watch?" He said, "The Audemars that you've been sitting here for years." And I got a ridiculous price for it, turned a nice profit. And he said, "I just took the initiative because I knew you really didn't want the watch, and I sold it. And I made a good profit on it," which was amazing for a watch that nobody wanted for 2 years, almost 3 years. So I said, "Well, let me just take the proceeds and buy some gold or silver. You have any?" And he says, "Well, let me see what I got. Let me see." So he comes back to me. He says, "Look, I want to be straight up with you. I don't really want to sell it to you now because I'm behind. I bought this in from several people. I've got some Krugerrands, but, I'm behind. And even with the premium, I'm still going to be selling at a loss. So I can't sell them to you now because I'm not going to take a loss on it. Call me when gold goes up $100 an ounce." I said, "Come on, Steve, that's why I'm trying to buy it now. I'm trying to buy it now because it's cheap." So, but I said, "Look, I can't expect you to take a hit on it. I'll just go over to Miles Franklin, or I'll go to American Gold Exchange or Stupler. Don't worry about it, Steve. Hold on to it, and I hope it becomes profitable real fast." The point here is that there's different types of gold dealers, precious metals dealers. There are the kind who buy daily and pretty much sell what they've lined up. They might have done a futures contract for it because they know that their demand is a certain amount. Steve, who I totally trust, he's 100% on the money. He doesn't try to upsell you to numismatics. The coins are authentic. He is what I would call a casual buyer and seller. When the supply walks into his store or somebody calls him, he buys it at the spot. And then he looks to sell it pretty quickly at spot plus premium. So if he buys a Krugerrand for $1,600, he's going to look to sell it for $1,650 to $1,670, depending what the going rate for a premium is now. But because gold and silver took such a hit in the past 2 weeks, what he's sitting on now, he knows is going to go back up. He's withholding it from the market. He's decreasing the supply. There are tons and tons of dealers just like Steve who are going to wait until they can make their investment back plus a premium. If gold goes even higher, he's happy with it. But the point is that low prices will decrease supply and cause the price to increase in many instances, because a whole class of precious metals dealers will be effectively removed from the markets. Places like Miles Franklin pretty much are receiving what they're selling the same day, and they're hedged, and they're not going to get burned real badly. But the smaller dealers, who are guys who just are what I would call opportunistic dealers, who in the regular course of their business have an opportunity to purchase bullion and then sell it relatively quickly, when the price goes down after they've made a purchase, they're generally going to hold it and wait for prices to go up again, thus restricting supply. So when you see the price of gold and silver go down, understand that as the price goes down, the supply goes down, which will eventually lead to an increase in prices. Just wanted to share that little story with you. This is Kerry Lutz, and another Triple Lutz Report, signing off.